In a quiet village tucked between rolling hills and dark forests, there lived a girl named Alara. She had wild hair the color of autumn leaves and eyes that sparkled like morning dew. Alara was often seen wandering the cobblestone streets, her small frame hunched as if carrying a heavy load. The villagers knew her as the girl who never smiled, for beneath her cheerful exterior lay a heart burdened with sadness. If you enjoy this video, please like the video and subscribe for more, and tell me where you are watching from today. I always find it awesome to see where all my viewers are watching from. Let's get back to the video. Alara lived with her father, who was known throughout the village for his strict and unyielding nature. He ran a small blacksmith shop, crafting tools and weapons for the townsfolk. His hands were strong and calloused, but his words were sharp, cutting deeper than any blade he forged. To Alara, he was not just a father. He was an imposing figure who often made her feel like she was never good enough. No matter how hard she tried to please him, his cold eyes seemed to look right through her, as if she were invisible. After her mother passed away when Alara was just a little girl, her father's heart had turned to stone. He no longer laughed, and the warmth that once filled their home faded into a chilly silence. Instead of nurturing his daughter's spirit, he filled their days with chores and criticisms. "Work harder," he would say sharply when Alara made mistakes. "You need to learn to be strong." But all Alara felt was weakness and fear. As the days turned into weeks, Alara found herself drawing further away from her father and the other villagers. While they gathered in groups to share stories and laughter, she would wander alone in the woods nearby, seeking solace among the trees and shadows. It was in those woods that she first met him, the Vampire King. He appeared one misty evening while she sat on a fallen log, tears rolling down her cheeks. She whispered her worries about her father, afraid of being heard, but desperate for someone to understand. That was when she saw him. A tall figure cloaked in darkness, his eyes glimmering like embers in the night. His presence was both frightening and comforting. The Vampire King stepped closer, and instead of recoiling in fear, Alara felt drawn to him. "You carry a heavy heart," he said in a voice smooth as silk, yet rich with depth. In that moment, Alara realized he wasn't just a monster from stories told to scare children. He was a creature who understood pain and loneliness. They formed an unlikely bond as she shared stories of her father's cruelty and her own yearning for a kind word or gentle touch. Though most would have fled from a vampire, Alara found herself seeking his company more and more. He became her secret friend, a companion who listened without judgment. They talked about everything, the stars above them, the dreams Alara dared to have, and the darkness that seemed to surround them both. But even in this strange friendship, a sense of unease lingered in Alara's heart. Deep down, she knew that relying on the Vampire King came with its own dangers. While he offered comfort, she often questioned what it meant to be close to someone so powerful, yet feared by others. Alara watched from afar as children played in the village square, their laughter echoing against the stone walls. She longed to join them, but felt held back by the weight of her father's expectations and her own insecurities. She wished for someone to stand beside her, someone who could help her break free from her father's grasp. As night fell over the village, she returned to her secret place in the woods, hoping to find solace in the darkness. It was there that she first uttered the words she had kept buried deep within. "My dad is cruel." The words hung in the air like mist, heavy with truth. At that moment, she sensed a shift around her. The Vampire King's eyes flickered with an intensity that took her breath away, a flash of red igniting the shadows. This moment marked the beginning of an adventure that would change everything for Alara. It was a turning point, one where loneliness would clash with newfound courage, and the Vampire King would choose whether to rise as her ally or remain a distant echo in her heart. Little did she know that this would set them on a path filled with danger, choices, and perhaps even redemption. As the days turned into weeks, Alara's bond with the Vampire King deepened. Each time she returned to the woods, she found comfort in his presence. The glow of his eyes, those fiery red orbs, brought her a sense of safety, a stark contrast to her father's cold gaze. When they spoke beneath the ancient trees, it felt as if time stood still. Alara shared more of her heart with him than she ever thought possible. While other children in the village laughed and played, Alara often sat on a mossy log, watching them from a distance. They were blissful and carefree, completely unaware of the heaviness that filled her own heart. She would often sigh, wishing her life could be different. If only I had a father who cared about me, she whispered one night as she lay back against the cool bark of her secret log. If only I could be happy like them. The Vampire King listened intently, his crimson eyes glowing brighter as she spoke. "You deserve happiness, Alara," he said softly. "Every child deserves to be loved." There was an understanding in his tone that made her feel seen for the first time. She wondered how this creature from tales of terror could speak to her with such kindness. Alara found herself sharing everything: her dreams of adventure, her longing for freedom from her father's harsh rules, and even her love for the stars that twinkled overhead at night. She described how she wished to dance under the moonlight without fear of being scolded or belittled. The more she talked, the more their friendship flourished. It was as if each secret unlocked another door in her heart. "I've read stories about creatures like you," Alara admitted one evening, biting her lip in nervousness. "They're usually seen as monsters." Her heart raced as she prepared for his response. But instead of anger or offense, he let out a soft laugh that echoed through the darkness around them. "Stories can be twisted by fear," he replied, his voice soothing like a gentle breeze among the trees. "I may be different from you in many ways, but I also know what it means to feel alone." This revelation sparked something in Alara, a sense of kinship with someone who understood loneliness just like she did. Alara began to view their friendship as a secret treasure, a beautiful jewel hidden away from prying eyes. She often pondered what it would mean for others to find out about this unlikely friendship. Would they be scared? Would they believe she had made some terrible mistake? These thoughts would whirl in her mind like fallen leaves on a gusty day. Yet even amidst this joy, there was always a flicker of doubt in Alara's heart. Moments sometimes slipped into shadows when memories of her father's harsh words crept back in. How could she fully embrace this friendship when back home her life felt so heavy? "I wish I could bring you home," she confessed one afternoon while resting beside him in their secret grove filled with ferns and wildflowers blooming vibrantly despite the darkness surrounding them. "You are brave and more capable than you realize," he replied thoughtfully, tilting his head slightly as he regarded her. "But your true strength must come from within before you can change your world." His words rang true to Alara's ears, but also filled her with uncertainty. Could bravery alone help her confront the man who had caused so much pain? It seemed clear now that their connection was about far more than companionship. It was also about finding courage within herself. As they spent more time together under starlit skies and whispering leaves, thoughts fluttered through Alara's mind like butterflies emerging from cocoons. She craved a life where she wasn't just surviving, but feeling alive. Each night spent with the Vampire King made Alara realize how deeply she yearned for something greater. A new beginning, free from worry and pain, caused by her father's unyielding ways. Yet despite all these thoughts roaming through her mind, there remained an ember of hope, a belief that perhaps one day things could change. As twilight blended into darkness that evening, Alara took a moment to breathe deeply among the trees around her, the weight on her heart gradually lifting. With each meeting, each story shared between them under moonlit skies, hope blossomed in places once shadowed by despair. And so their tale continued, writing itself beneath those ancient branches as laughter mingled with shadows. A tale woven between a lonely girl and a creature of night who understood sacrifice and longing all too well. Little did they know that their journey would soon take unexpected turns, filled with challenges and revelations they had yet to face together. The moon hung high in the sky that fateful night, casting a silver glow over the forest where Alara and the Vampire King often met. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the sweet scent of blooming night flowers. As she wandered deeper into their secret grove, Alara could feel the familiar flutter of excitement mixed with anxiety in her chest. Tonight felt different. It was as if the stars themselves were holding their breath in anticipation. Alara approached their usual spot, a soft patch of grass surrounded by towering trees that seemed to whisper secrets to one another. The Vampire King was already there, leaning against a gnarled oak, his silhouette dark against the pale light. When he saw her, his crimson eyes lit up, illuminating the darkness around him. "You're here," he said, his voice a soothing balm against the chill of the night. "I wanted to talk," Alara replied, her heart racing as she settled beside him. She took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts like scattered leaves catching the wind. There were so many things she had kept bottled up inside her. Feelings of anger, hurt, and longing that twisted within her like a storm. "What's on your mind?" he asked gently, encouraging her to share. "I've been thinking about my father," Alara began hesitantly. The moment she spoke his name, a shadow flickered across the Vampire King's face. "He can be so cruel, always criticizing me and never showing me love." The words tumbled out, fueled by pent-up emotions. "I just want to be free from his harshness. I thought maybe he would change or see how much I try to please him." As she spoke, Alara's voice cracked under the weight of her truth. "But every day feels heavier. I don't understand why he can't be like other fathers who care and nurture." With each confession, her heart raced faster, feeling both vulnerable and liberated at once. She looked up at the Vampire King and saw a flicker of understanding in his gaze, a reflection of her own pain mirrored back at her. "You deserve so much more than this," he said softly, his eyes narrowing as they glowed brighter with an intense red hue. The sight sent shivers down Alara's spine. Was it anger, concern, or perhaps a mixture of both? "It's just so hard," she continued, tears welling in her eyes as she fought to keep herself composed. "I wish I could escape this life and find happiness somewhere far away." The Vampire King straightened slightly, as if her words had ignited something within him. "You shouldn't have to bear this alone," he replied, a fierce determination piercing through his normally gentle demeanor. No one should endure such cruelty. As Alara watched him intently, she couldn't help but feel an electric charge in the air between them. Their connection deepening as emotions swirled around them, like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. She could sense his protective instincts rising. It frightened and thrilled her all at once. "Promise me you won't let him hurt you anymore," he urged vehemently, his voice now laced with that fierce intensity that sent sparks through the midnight air. Without thinking, Alara nodded slowly as tears fell silently down her cheeks. The warmth of his concern wrapped around her like a comforting cloak in stark contrast to the cold night air. "I don't know how," she whispered. In that moment of shared vulnerability and raw emotion, something shifted within their bond. It solidified into an unbreakable pact between them founded on understanding and support. "I will help you find your strength," he vowed solemnly, his eyes glowing even brighter, as if they were aflame with unyielding passion for justice and protection. "Together, we can confront your father's harshness." Alara felt hope rising within her like dawn breaking through darkness. A promise of courage forged in their budding friendship with every word exchanged beneath the stars. "Do you really mean it?" she asked quietly. "Of course," came his unwavering response as he reached out to hold her hand gently. An act filled with warmth that made Alara realize just how powerful this connection had become. Underneath the ancient trees that had borne witness to their growing friendship, Alara found solace in knowing she was no longer alone in facing the challenges ahead. With renewed determination blooming within her heart like wildflowers breaking through winter's chill, she knew that together they would find a way to navigate the shadows cast by cruelty and fear. And so, on that fateful night, when his eyes turned red with fury for what had been done to her spirit, a new chapter began for both Alara and the Vampire King, one filled with purpose and potential as they prepared to face whatever lay ahead together. As the night sky draped its starry blanket over the forest, Alara and the Vampire King found themselves wrapped in the warmth of their newfound bond. Yet beneath the surface of his mysterious exterior lay a history filled with pain and misunderstanding that shaped him into the protective figure he had become. One evening, as they sat together on their favorite mossy patch, Alara noticed a flicker of sorrow cross the Vampire King's face, a shadow that contrasted sharply with the strength he had shown her. The air seemed to thicken with unspoken words as she gently nudged him to share his story. "What made you who you are?" she asked softly, her voice barely more than a whisper carried by the wind. The Vampire King sighed deeply, his expression becoming distant. "Once, I was not always a creature of darkness," he began, his voice steady yet filled with melancholy. "Long ago, I was a prince in a kingdom where light shone brightly. I was meant to be a leader, filled with hope and love for my people. But I was also different, gifted with powers I didn't understand." Alara listened intently as he recounted his youth filled with joy and laughter, of playing in sunlit gardens and exploring ancient castles. "Though my heart was good, my abilities caused fear among those around me. They whispered behind closed doors, calling me a monster." His eyes darkened with the weight of those memories. As he continued, Alara could see the boy he once was, the innocence he had lost to the cruel judgments of others. "My father, the king, became distant as I grew older. He feared me more than he loved me. Instead of guidance, I received only scorn. It pushed me into isolation. One day, yearning for acceptance and connection, he made a fateful decision to venture into the forbidden woods, hoping to find solace among the creatures rumored to inhabit its depths. There he encountered an ancient spirit who granted him immense power, but at a terrible cost. He was transformed into a vampire. As he stood before the spirit, the power surged through him like wildfire. It felt intoxicating and terrifying all at once. I thought this would help me overcome my loneliness, he confessed, pain evident in his voice. But instead, it deepened my isolation. My people turned their backs on me. They saw me as their greatest fear and abomination. The heartache from his past seeped through each word as he shared how years of solitude followed. He became known as the Vampire King, a name that carried both reverence and horror for those who heard it. While many feared him for his power and dark soul, Ilara sensed that within him lay the remnants of a broken prince seeking acceptance. I learned what it meant to be misunderstood, he continued softly, locking eyes with her. I know cruelty intimately, the way it can twist hearts until they turn cold. This is why your pain resonates so deeply with me. Ilara's heart swelled with empathy. She couldn't help but reach out to hold his hand, as if bridging their fractured pasts. But you've chosen to protect others now, she reminded him gently, marveling at the complexity of his journey. Yes, he replied, a flicker of determination sparking in his gaze once more. I vowed never to allow another innocent soul to suffer as I did. That is why I wish to help you, because I see strength in you that you may not yet believe exists. The air around them felt charged with hope and understanding. Ilara realized they were both searching for healing rooted in their shared struggles against harsh cruelty. And as she listened to his story of transformation from prince to vampire, she understood better why he had taken on such a role in her life. He wanted to be her protector. What if your past catches up with us? Ilara asked hesitantly, fear creeping back into her voice. The past can carry shadows, he replied thoughtfully. But together, we can summon light strong enough to push them away. Your journey is not just about confronting your father. It's about finding your true self amid darkness. In that moment, Ilara grappled with a realization that their destinies were intertwined. Her pursuit of freedom would also illuminate his path toward redemption. With this shared understanding, they were ready to face their futures together. He as her guardian in the dark world outside, and she as a beacon of hope guiding him home again. As they sat beneath the ancient trees, bathed in moonlight, Ilara felt surrounded by warmth despite the chill pressing around them. She saw cracks forming in the walls built around his heart, a chance for them both to heal together. And so their story continued, a journey sparked by pain and nurtured through courage and compassion. A tale of two souls intertwined beneath stars that held hope for brighter tomorrows ahead. As days turned into nights, a sense of urgency began to weave itself into the fabric of Ilara and the Vampire King's bond. They spent countless hours in the woods, sharing laughter and dreams. But with each passing moment, Ilara felt the weight of her father's cruelty pressing down on her like an iron shackle. It was during one of these twilight meetings that the Vampire King's demeanor changed, revealing the depths of his conviction to help her. Ilara, he began one evening as they sat beneath the shimmering stars, I can offer you a way to confront your father. His crimson eyes flickered with intensity as he continued. I can give you powers, strength, and confidence to stand up against him. Ilara's heart raced at the thought. The idea of wielding such power was both exhilarating and terrifying. She imagined herself confronting her father, the fierce emotions bubbling up inside her like a cauldron ready to boil over. But with that excitement also came fear. Fear of what that power could mean for her and who she might become. What do you mean? She asked cautiously. What kind of powers are we talking about? The Vampire King leaned closer, his voice low and steady. I can awaken abilities within you. senses that will sharpen your instincts and give you strength beyond what any human could possess. You would be able to face him without fear. Alara's mind raced at the possibilities. She pictured herself strong enough to command respect, powerful enough to silence her father's harsh words with a single glare. Yet another part of her hesitated, whispering doubts that gnawed at her soul. But what would I have to give up? What would it cost me? His expression turned solemn as he sighed deeply. There will always be a price when drawing upon dark powers, he admitted cautiously. You must understand that tapping into this strength may change you in ways you cannot foresee. There is a chance that it could consume parts of your humanity, the very essence of who you are. A shiver ran through Alara at his words. She felt torn between two worlds. The world where she remained the timid girl under her father's thumb, and the world where she emerged as someone formidable and fearless. The idea of losing herself was terrifying. I don't want to become like him, she whispered, clutching the grass beneath her tightly. What if in seeking power, I become cruel too? The Vampire King watched her closely, sensing her inner turmoil. That is the risk we all bear when confronting darkness, he said softly. But remember, true strength comes from within. Your heart will guide you. Alara glanced down at their entwined hands, feeling their warmth mingling with the chill breeze around them. In that moment, she realized how far she had come since meeting him. The girl who once wandered lonely and afraid now stood on the precipice of change. But what if she embraced this dark path? Would it bring liberation or more chains? She struggled with these thoughts, feeling like they twisted around her mind like creeping vines. What if I can't control it? Alara finally voiced her fears aloud. The idea of embracing something so powerful felt like opening a door she couldn't close again. What if it trapped her in a world darker than before? You will not walk this path alone, he reassured her earnestly, his gaze fierce yet full of compassion. Together we can navigate through whatever shadows arise because I believe in your spirit. For a moment, Alara let herself bask in his faith, the belief that she could withstand whatever trials awaited her. But doubt still lingered like ghosts, haunting the corners of her mind. If I decide to accept this power, she said slowly, contemplating every word, I need to promise myself that I won't lose sight of who I am. Then make that promise, he urged gently, his voice wrapping around her like a protective barrier against uncertainty. You have the strength to keep your heart intact, even in darkness. As they sat beneath the vast sky, adorned with glimmering stars, Alara's heart swelled with determination, battling against fear. Could she truly embrace this new destiny? Should she risk everything in pursuit of liberation? The weightiness of decision loomed over her like distant thunder, an impending storm that beckoned both danger and promise ahead. With newfound resolve sparking within her soul, a glimmer illuminating uncertainty, Alara knew one thing for certain. Whatever path lay ahead would be forged by her own choices and guided by both love and resilience. And so together, they stood on the brink of transformation. Two souls united by shared pain, ready to explore a dark path that held not only challenges, but also the hope for liberation from their pasts as they faced an uncertain future side by side. The morning sun rose over the village, casting a harsh light that felt almost mocking against Alara's resolve. She stood outside her father's blacksmith shop, heart pounding in her chest as anticipation twisted like a knot in her stomach. Today was the day she decided to confront her father. The words she had practiced in silence swam in her mind, each one heavy with meaning. Beside her, hidden within the shadows of the trees, was the Vampire King, watching over her like a silent guardian. His presence gave her courage, yet anxiety fluttered just beneath the surface. Ilara took a deep breath, steeling herself as the heavy wooden door creaked open. Her father stepped out, a formidable figure with his broad shoulders and stern brow, forging tools that demanded respect from all who saw him. With these very hands, he created objects of power and beauty. Ironically, the same hands had brought her emotional pain. "Get inside and help me," he barked without even looking at her, his voice cold and commanding. "Father," Ilara said, surprised by the strength in her own voice. The words seemed to hang heavily in the air between them, echoing through the quiet streets. For once, she wasn't just an obedient shadow waiting for his command. "What is it?" he replied sharply, finally focusing on her with narrowed eyes that bore down on her as if she were a wisp of smoke ready to vanish. "I can't keep doing this," she blurted out, shaking slightly but standing firm against his glare that felt like daggers. "You treat me like I'm worthless. All those times you criticize me, I can't take it anymore." Her father's expression darkened, and Ilara could sense the anger bubbling beneath his controlled facade. "I do what I must to prepare you for life," he growled. His voice was low and dangerous. "You need to learn to be strong." "Strong?" Ilara exclaimed, her heart racing as she fought to keep control of her emotions. "There's a difference between strength and cruelty. You think breaking me will make me stronger? It only makes me afraid." As she spoke, she felt an unexpected surge of power rising within her, emboldened by memories of late-night conversations with the Vampire King, their shared fears and hopes, filling her courage like water saturating parched soil. She glanced toward the shadows where he stood. She could almost feel his energy wrapped around her like invisible armor. "I am done hiding. I want to know what it feels like to be respected." Her voice trembled but held resolve. The words spilled out from deep within, fueled by pent-up frustration and longing for acceptance instead of scorn. For a moment, there was silence as disbelief registered on her father's face. He was not used to being challenged, not even by the daughter he had raised so harshly. "This is unacceptable," he thundered after what felt like an eternity. "You will learn your place." Ilara took a step closer, unwilling to back down any longer. "No, you are wrong. My place is not under your thumb. I deserve to be seen. I deserve love." Tears filled her eyes as she spoke those powerful words, the truth cracking through the shell he had built around their home. Anger flashed in her father's cold expression. But something else flickered there too. Something akin to fear or uncertainty. It startled him more than she knew. Years of suppressing memories of joy mixed with shadows of pain rolled through him at the sound of her fierce defiance. In that moment of tension, Ilara felt every insecurity wash away. There was something powerful about standing up for herself and knowing she was not alone. "He has taught you this." Her father sneered at the mention of the Vampire King. It was meant as an insult, but only made Ilara stand taller. Leaving behind anything timid and weak in that moment seemed impossible. "Yes," she replied defiantly without hesitation. "He has shown me what it means to stand strong in darkness, something you wouldn't understand." Behind her father's hard exterior lay echoes of his own past, regrets and desires that echoed in his heart. But unyielding pride kept him trapped under its weight. "You are foolish," he spat venomously. But this time there was a quiver beneath his tone that told Ilara he could sense the tide shifting. With one last breath filled with newfound courage, Ilara gathered herself for what would be one last declaration. the defining moment that would alter everything for them both. I will no longer let you define who I am or what I should become. You are not my master, as long as I live. The air thickened around them as they stood face to face. Two contrasting forces vying for control over emotions unleashed and truths spoken aloud. In those seconds that followed, uncertainty loomed like dark clouds resting heavily above them. From the shadows where he remained concealed among trembling branches, the Vampire King bore witness to Alara's bravery, with admiration illuminating his glowing red eyes. The small girl standing before an imposing figure manifested into the embodiment of valor itself. And though fear still lurked inside Alara's heart, like flickering shadows danced upon walls beyond threshold's reach, she knew deep down that their journey had only begun. No longer would she hide from conflict, nor bend low under burdens weighed upon by judgment alone. As tensions swirled around them like tempestuous winds ready to break, it felt as if liberation might finally rest just beyond grasp, a restless dance awaiting release. With fists clenched tightly around destinies set ablaze beneath luminous skies hung heavily overhead, holding promises still unspoken yet simmering beneath surface. Just waiting. Waiting for dawn's arrival. As truth emerged like wings breaking free from chains forged long ago. The air crackled with tension as Alara's words hung heavy between her and her father. She stood firm, heart racing but resolute, meeting his icy stare with newfound determination. For several long moments, silence enveloped them, the world around them fading into a distant hum. Her father's eyes widened, a mixture of shock and fury washing over his face as if he had been struck by lightning. "What did you just say?" he demanded, voice low and seething. His usual commanding tone faltered, revealing something vulnerable beneath the armor of his authority. "You dare defy me?" Alara felt a tremor run through her at the sheer intensity of his anger, but her own defiance only grew stronger. "Yes, I dare," she shot back, fueled by the conviction burning within. "I'm tired of your cruelty. I deserve to be treated with respect." Her father's expression morphed from shock to rage. She could see confusion creeping into his eyes, as if he was struggling to comprehend the girl standing before him. No longer the obedient child he expected, but a fierce young woman unafraid to speak her truth. "You are nothing without me," he roared, fists clenched at his sides. "I'm everything with or without you," Alara countered, refusing to back down. "You think breaking me will make me strong? It only makes me afraid and alone." With each word that escaped her lips, she sensed waves of uncertainty crashing against her father's hardened exterior. He opened his mouth to respond, but this time hesitated, caught between rage and confusion. The weight of her words struck deep into his pride, exposing cracks in the facade he had carefully constructed for so many years. For a fleeting moment, she saw something flicker behind his cold mask. A glimpse of regret, perhaps, or a whisper of doubt about the life choices he had made. This was not just a struggle for power. It felt like a long dormant truth being unearthed. "Who taught you to speak to me this way?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly as a hint of vulnerability broke through his anger. "Have you been filled with nonsense by that fiend lurking in the woods?" In that instant, Alara recognized an opportunity, a chance to open a dialogue that could either lead to healing or deepen the conflict between them even further. "No one filled my head with nonsense. I found my voice. I finally see what you've done to me all these years. The fear you instilled in me is not strength. It's poison." The shock on her father's face morphed into something more complex. Alara could see the walls around his heart beginning to shake as if swayed by the strength of her resolve. "You don't understand what it means to be strong," he replied, though this time there was less conviction in his voice, almost as if he was trying to convince himself rather than her. "But I do," Ilara asserted boldly. "Strength isn't about breaking someone down until they're afraid to stand up for themselves. It's about lifting others up and nurturing their spirit." The words flowed freely now, each one kindling flames of determination within her, as they fought against the oppressive shadows cast by her father's expectations. As they stood there locked in confrontation, Ilara felt the presence of the Vampire King lingering just beyond reach, an unyielding force, encouraging her to continue fighting for her truth while offering protection from the darkness swirling around them. "I won't allow you to define who I am any longer. I will forge my own path," she proclaimed fiercely, tears spilling over despite her defiance. The moment hung heavy in the air. Ilara was terrified, yet exhilarated by this confrontation. Her father's expression remained inscrutable. Was it anger or something deeper? She couldn't tell anymore. "Have I really pushed you so far away?" he asked finally, softer now, the harshness in his tone replaced by an almost dazed disbelief that was unsettling. This small shift sent a tremor through Ilara's heart. Perhaps there was a chance for redemption after all. "You can change," she whispered, hoping he would hear the truth embedded within those words. It's not too late. For the first time, she saw conflict warring within him, layers of emotion overlapping each other like tightly woven threads unraveling from an old tapestry. In that moment of vulnerability echoed years of pain exchanged between father and daughter. "I don't know how," he said quietly, almost defeated as he looked away from her gaze. "Start by choosing kindness," she urged gently. "Replace your cruelty with understanding. Show me that you can change." As Ilara spoke those words, she felt hope sparked like flames igniting kindling. Perhaps this was their chance to break free from their cycles of pain together. But even as hope blossomed in the space between them, uncertainty still lingered like storm clouds threatening rain, a reminder that healing would take time and vulnerability on both sides. And so they stood poised at an invisible threshold, two souls battered by life, facing each other amidst rising tensions and thinly veiled truths that risked exposing everything they had built around themselves. Whether this would lead towards redemption or deepen their chasm remained uncertain. Yet through it all lay a glimmer of new beginnings waiting just beyond their grasp as dawn approached heralding change. Not just for Ilara, but perhaps for her father too. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the village, Ilara found herself standing at a crossroads. One path leading toward her father and his lingering cruelty, and the other toward the unknown power offered by the Vampire King. The weight of her recent confrontation with her father echoed in her mind, a mixture of exhilaration and fear swirling within her like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. The memories of their heated exchange lingered like shadows. But it was the Vampire King's promise that pulled at her heartstrings. He had offered her strength, a chance to stand tall against her father's harshness. Yet, as she stood alone beneath the ancient trees where they often met, Ilara felt torn between two powerful desires: the yearning for independence and the fear of losing herself in darkness. "What if I become like him?" she whispered to herself, glancing toward the shadows where she imagined the Vampire King waiting. His presence had always been comforting, yet now it felt heavy with expectations. What if this power changes me? In that moment of quiet reflection, Ilara replayed every conversation they had shared. The laughter beneath starlit skies, the moments of vulnerability exchanged between them. He had shown her what it meant to be strong in darkness. But she also knew that true strength came from within. Did she really need to draw upon dark powers to find her voice? Ilara wandered deeper into the woods, each step drawing her closer to an answer. She felt alive among the trees, their whispering leaves echoing her thoughts back to her. Would embracing this power mean abandoning everything she valued? Would it turn her into someone unrecognizable? "What do you want?" she asked herself aloud, as if seeking guidance from the very forest surrounding her. Do you want freedom from your father's control? Or do you want to remain true to yourself? The cool breeze brushed against her cheeks as memories flooded back. Moments spent in fear of harsh words and cold glares. Her father's anger had often overshadowed any warmth he could offer, leaving behind a landscape filled with uncertainty and pain. But standing up to him had ignited something within, an ember of hope that couldn't be extinguished. Ilara paused beneath a sprawling oak tree, its gnarled branches stretching out like welcoming arms. This was where she had first met the Vampire King. Here was where she had begun to learn about courage and resilience. "I can choose my own path," she murmured, feeling empowered by those words. "I may not have control over my father's actions or his words, but I can choose how I respond." She thought about all she had learned from him, the importance of nurturing one's spirit rather than breaking others down, and realized that perhaps this was where true strength lay, in loving herself enough to stand firm against cruelty without becoming cruel in return. As night began to envelop the forest in its velvety embrace, Ilara felt an awakening deep within her soul, a clarity that illuminated her purpose moving forward. She wanted to confront her father again, not with anger or vengeance, but with understanding and compassion. What if I show him kindness instead? She wondered aloud. What if I can be strong without losing myself? The idea sent shivers down her spine. It was both terrifying and invigorating, a choice that could redefine everything for both herself and her father. Moments later, Ilara sensed a familiar presence beside her. Stepping out from behind a cluster of ferns was the Vampire King, his crimson eyes glowing softly in the dim light. He regarded her with curiosity mixed with concern. He could see turmoil dancing behind those vibrant emerald irises. "You seem troubled," he said gently, his voice like velvet wrapping around her heart. "I am," Ilara admitted, feeling vulnerable yet resolute beneath his gaze. "I'm torn between wanting power and wanting to remain true to myself." His expression softened as he stepped closer. "You don't have to choose one over the other," he said wisely. "Power can exist alongside your true self if you let it guide rather than control you." Ilara contemplated his words carefully. There was wisdom in them that resonated deep within her being. Perhaps it wasn't about choosing power or kindness, but finding a balance between them that allowed for growth without sacrifice. "I want to face my father again," she declared suddenly, feeling a rush of determination swell within her chest. "But this time, I want to do it on my terms, with compassion instead of anger." The Vampire King smiled warmly at this revelation, a flicker of pride illuminating his features as he nodded knowingly. "Then you are already stronger than you realize," he praised quietly. Ilara felt a surge of gratitude wash over her as they stood together beneath the stars. Two souls intertwined amid darkness, yet grounded by hope for brighter tomorrows ahead. With renewed clarity guiding each breath she took, Ilara understood now that strength didn't solely come from external sources. It blossomed from within when nurtured by love and resilience. And so, as night continued its gentle descent upon the world around them, Alara made a choice not just about power, but about embracing who she truly was while remaining steadfast against cruelty's grip on those hearts still seeking healing amidst life's tumultuous storms ahead. The day of the final showdown dawned with an air of expectancy, a heavy blanket of tension that seemed to envelop the village as Alara prepared herself for what lay ahead. The air was thick with the scent of rain, and dark clouds loomed above, mirroring the storm of emotions swirling within her. She stood at the edge of the woods, the place where her journey alongside the Vampire King had begun, her heart racing with both fear and determination. Today would be the day she confronted her father once more, but this time armed not with anger, but with compassion and strength. She felt the weight of his harsh words from their last encounter pressing down on her, but alongside it was the warmth of the bond she shared with the Vampire King, whose presence now felt like a protective shield wrapped tightly around her. "Are you ready?" His voice emerged softly from the shadows, soothing yet firm. He stepped forward, revealing his tall figure, his crimson eyes glowing with an intensity that spoke of unwavering support. Alara took a deep breath, her voice trembling slightly as she responded, "I think so. I want to show him that I can stand strong without losing myself." She could feel the pulse of courage building inside her, a flickering flame igniting into something more robust. "Remember, you have the strength within you," he reassured her, his gaze steady as he held her attention. "You are not alone in this. I will be right beside you." As they made their way toward the blacksmith shop, Alara could see the familiar figure of her father through the window. His broad shoulders hunched over his workbench, oblivious to the brewing storm outside. This was where he forged tools of power and beauty. Ironically, it was also where he had forged chains that bound her spirit. Alara's heart pounded in her chest as they approached the door. She paused for a moment outside, feeling all-consuming doubt creeping in, the memories of fear and pain threatening to overwhelm her resolve. But then she caught sight of the Vampire King by her side, his presence grounding her like sturdy roots beneath a towering tree. "Let's do this," she whispered to herself before pushing open the heavy door with newfound purpose. "Get inside and help me." Her father barked sharply without glancing up from his work. His tone dripped with authority and expectation, a command meant to keep her in line. But today was different. "Father, we need to talk," Alara stated firmly, surprising herself with how powerful her voice sounded. It rang out like a clarion call amidst the clanging sounds of metal against metal. He finally looked up, shock coloring his features as he registered her words. "What is it now?" he snapped, annoyance lacing his voice. "I'm tired of being treated like I'm worthless," Alara shouted, stepping forward bravely. The moment she uttered those words, she felt a wave of empowerment surge through her. "I deserve to be respected." His eyes narrowed as rage flickered across his face. "You dare speak to me like that?" His fists clenched tightly against the workbench, muscles taut with anger. "I do dare," Alara exclaimed passionately. "You think cruelty makes me strong? It only makes me afraid. I will not stand for it any longer." Behind her, she sensed the Vampire King shifting slightly, a silent reminder that she didn't face this battle alone. His presence fueled her conviction further. "Who taught you to speak this way?" He spat venomously, incredulity mingling with indignation. "No one taught me," Alara shot back, determination glinting in her eyes. "I found my own voice. I refuse to let your anger define me any longer." As silence fell between them, a palpable tension crackled throughout the room. Alara could see confusion dancing behind her father's fierce facade, a flicker of uncertainty that struck deeper than any blow. "What if I showed you kindness instead?" she asked boldly, surprising even herself with this offer. "What if I could help you understand? I don't want us to be adversaries. I want us to heal." Her father hesitated for a moment, vulnerability flashing across his face before he quickly masked it with anger again. "You're just a foolish girl who doesn't understand what real strength is," he retorted weakly. "But I do understand," Alara countered fervently. "True strength is lifting others up instead of tearing them down. You taught me how to survive, but now it's time for me to thrive." She held his gaze steady, refusing to look away even as doubt threatened to creep back in. He could see something different in her now, a reflection of hope and courage that reminded him of a time long forgotten when he had been someone else entirely. "Have I really pushed you this far away?" he asked quietly, almost defeated, as though her words were beginning to penetrate through barriers built by years of pain. "Yes," Alara replied softly but firmly. "But it's not too late for you, for us, to change." The weight of their shared history hung heavily in the air between them. Moments passed as they both grappled with emotions long buried beneath layers of resentment and sorrow. From behind Alara's shoulder, she felt the Vampire King's protective presence intensifying, an energy that urged her forward into this moment of potential transformation. "I believe in you," he whispered just loud enough for her to hear. With that encouragement coursing through every fiber of her being, Alara took a deep breath and stepped closer again. "Together we can break free from this cycle," she urged gently yet resolutely. "I'm ready to forge a new path, with kindness instead of anger." As she spoke those words aloud, in that sacred space filled with history and hurt, a new chapter began unfolding before them, one steeped in possibility for healing and redemption amid darkness cloaked in doubt. And so they stood, two souls facing hardships and shadows, ready to embrace whatever came next on their journey toward understanding and reconciliation beneath stars twinkling brightly above, in witness to their courageous hearts fighting for light against overwhelming darkness. As the tension in the blacksmith shop began to dissipate, Alara and her father stood facing each other, the weight of their shared history hanging thick in the air. The flickering light from the forge illuminated his features, revealing lines of weariness etched into his brow. For the first time, Alara saw not just a cruel father, but a man burdened by his own struggles, haunted by choices that had led him down a path of isolation and anger. "I don't want to keep living like this," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. The hardness in his eyes softened, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability that Alara had longed to see. "I've always thought I was preparing you for life. I didn't realize how much I was pushing you away." Alara's heart raced at the possibility of change blooming before her. "It's not too late for us," she urged gently, stepping closer. "We can find a way to heal together if we both choose kindness over fear." Her father looked down at his hands, those same hands that had created both beauty and pain. "I don't know how," he admitted, sounding defeated yet willing to listen. "It starts with understanding," she replied firmly, drawing on the lessons she had learned from both her experiences and the Vampire King's guidance. "It's about lifting each other up instead of tearing each other down." The silence between them held the promise of something new, a chance for redemption and connection that had been lost for far too long. Alara could feel her father's resolve wavering as he grappled with the truth in her words. And she took this moment to extend an olive branch. Let's take small steps together, she suggested softly. We can work on rebuilding our relationship. No more anger, just honesty and patience. He met her gaze, searching for hope amid layers of doubt. You really want this? He asked hesitantly. Yes, Ilara affirmed, with a conviction that resonated deep within her soul. I want us to be a family again, one built on trust and love instead of fear. With those words hanging in the air like a promise unspoken, Ilara sensed change blossoming between them. Her father let out a shuddering breath as if releasing years of pent-up frustration and regret. Then I will try, he said finally, determination beginning to replace despair in his voice. Just then, they heard a gentle rustle from behind Ilara, and she turned slightly to see the Vampire King standing nearby. The light from the forge cast shadows across his face, yet there was an unmistakable warmth in his expression as he watched their exchange unfold. You have done well today, Ilara, he praised quietly, pride evident in his voice. You showed great strength by choosing kindness over anger. A smile broke across her face at his words. It felt as if she had come full circle in her journey toward understanding her own power, not just through strength, but through compassion as well. Thank you for being there for me, she said sincerely as she turned back toward her father. And thank you for being willing to change. As they stood there together, a daughter seeking healing and a father ready to embrace vulnerability, Ilara realized how far they both had come since their initial confrontation. The storm that once threatened to tear their relationship apart now felt like distant thunderclouds giving way to clearer skies ahead. In that moment of resolution, Ilara understood that while healing would take time and effort from both sides, they were now united in their commitment to forge a better future together. As they stepped outside into the cool evening air, the clouds parting slightly to reveal glimmers of stars overhead, Ilara felt buoyed by hope for what lay ahead. She knew this journey wouldn't be easy, but felt empowered knowing they would face it side by side. Beside her stood the Vampire King, whose support continued to anchor her even as new challenges loomed on their horizon. Together, they formed an alliance bound not only by circumstance, but also by shared understanding, a friendship forged through hardship that would carry them forward into whatever lay ahead. With you beside me, Ilara said softly, as they walked away from the blacksmith shop toward an uncertain future filled with possibilities. I know I can face anything. A bond built on strength and empathy bound them together as they ventured into the night. Two souls intertwined against darkness, embarking on new adventures filled with hope and healing awaiting them under starlit skies where dreams could take flight once again. As the sun set on the horizon, casting a warm glow over the village, Ilara stood in the meadow just outside her home, reflecting on her journey. The gentle breeze rustled through the grass, mirroring the current of emotions swirling within her heart. She felt a deep sense of peace after her confrontation with her father, a moment that marked not just an ending, but also a new beginning. Ilara had once been a timid girl, overshadowed by her father's harsh words and expectations. But now, she felt transformed, stronger and more resilient than she had ever imagined. She had embraced her voice and stood up for herself, choosing kindness and understanding over anger and resentment. The thought filled her with a warmth that radiated from within. In the distance, she spotted the familiar silhouette of the Vampire King leaning against a tree, his crimson eyes glimmering like distant stars. He had not only been her protector, but also her friend, guiding her through darkness and teaching her about strength with compassion. She closed her eyes for a moment, savoring the memories they had shared, the laughter, the stories told under moonlit skies, and the lessons learned together that had shaped her into who she was becoming. "Do you see it?" he asked suddenly, breaking her thoughts as he gestured toward the village. "The change?" Alara opened her eyes to take in the scene before her. Families gathered around fires, children playing in the streets, laughter echoing through the air. It was different from how she remembered it. A sense of hope hung in the atmosphere, as if the village itself was awakening from a long slumber. "Yes," she replied softly, feeling the warmth of those memories flooding back. "I see it now. It's as though everything is shifting." "We are all capable of change," he remarked thoughtfully. "You've breathed new life into your relationship with your father. Change breeds hope." Alara took a deep breath, summoning courage once more as she thought about what lay ahead. She remembered her father's softened gaze during their confrontation and how he had expressed willingness to try and understand, to build something new together. Though it would take time, she felt optimistic about navigating this path of healing. "Strength comes from within," Alara said quietly, recalling the core lessons she had taken to heart throughout their journey together. "I've learned that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to ask for help." The Vampire King nodded approvingly, his expression warm with pride. "And you will continue to grow stronger. You have both power and kindness inside you now, a balance that will guide you forward." Alara smiled at him, grateful for his unwavering support. "Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself," she said earnestly. "You helped me find my voice." "It was always there," he replied gently. "You just needed to unearth it." A sense of gratitude filled Alara's heart as they stood side by side amid the beauty of a setting sun, a quiet reminder that she was no longer alone in facing life's challenges. As night began to fall and stars twinkled overhead, she realized that the journey before her held endless possibilities. The scars of yesterday would always remain a part of her story, but they would no longer dictate who she would become. Instead, they would serve as reminders of resilience and growth, the strength that blossomed from hardship. Alara took one last look at the village, imagining how she would forge her own path moving forward, one built on trust, understanding, and resilience rather than fear or cruelty. She envisioned moments spent creating connections with others and nurturing relationships that encouraged everyone to thrive. With renewed determination surging within her soul, Alara turned toward the Vampire King and offered a radiant smile. "Let's explore what lies ahead together." As they made their way back toward the village, hand in hand, two souls intertwined by shared experiences, they were ready to embrace whatever awaited them under starlit skies filled with dreams yet to be realized. There was hope in their hearts now, hope that illuminated their path as they ventured into a future adorned with kindness, healing, and friendship, bound by strength forged through compassion. In that moment, Alara knew she was not just stepping into a new chapter. She was writing her own story, one filled with courage and love that would inspire others along the way. And so they walked forward into the night, together, defying darkness with every step taken into an illuminated world waiting just beyond reach.